The vote was unanimous. 847 to 0. Humanity was banished from civilized space. They were too chaotic, too emotional, too unpredictable. They were a threat to the perfect, placid order of the galaxy. So they left, quietly, efficiently, and completely. But what happens when the gear you removed was the one thing keeping the whole machine from falling apart? What is the true cost of perfect, silent order? This is the story of how a galaxy that banished its chaos was consumed by the silence that followed. Before we begin the full transmission, please subscribe to the channel and secure your connection so you are never left in the dark. All right, let's initiate the archival playback. Now, the silence that followed. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council fell silent. On the massive display screen floating in the center of the chamber, the final vote appeared. 847 to 0. Every single member species had voted the same way. Humanity was banished. Ambassador Anya Sharma watched the numbers lock into place. She was alone in the human delegations gallery. The others had been recalled weeks ago when the trial began. Now, hundreds of pairs of eyes, faceted, compound, liquid, and crystalline, turned to her. They expected her to shout, to argue, to make one of those passionate, emotional speeches her species was infamous for. Instead, she simply nodded. Chairman Vexlor's 4 eyes blinked slowly, his gelatinous form quivering as he read the official statement. His voice echoed through the chamber, devoid of emotion. The Council finds that humanity poses a continuing threat to galactic stability. Their unpredictable nature, their excessive emotional responses, and their dangerous tendency toward unsanctioned innovation make them unsuitable for membership in civilized society. Anya stood. Her uniform was a simple, dark blue fabric, stark against the shimmering robes and carapaces around her. The Human Federation accepts the Council's decision, she said. Her voice was calm, steady. We request 6 standard months to evacuate our colonies and withdraw from all Council territories. The silence in the hall deepened. This was not the reaction they had prepared for. Where was the anger? The threats? The bargaining? Chairman Vexlor's tentacles twitched nervously. 6 months is acceptable, he finally said. All human presence must be removed from Council space by that time. It will be done, Anya replied. She bowed her head slightly, a gesture of finality, not submission. She gathered her datapad, turned, and walked out of the hall. Her footsteps, they echoed in the silence she left behind. The evacuation began within hours. On every human world, every orbital station, every deep space research facility, the same message arrived. Encrypted. 3 words. Pack everything. Go quietly. The speed of the human response surprised everyone. Ships that had been scattered across the galaxy on trade missions and exploration ventures suddenly converged on human colonies. Massive, city-sized cargo vessels materialized from hyperspace, their holds yawning open. Space elevators worked around the clock, day and night, ferrying people and supplies to the waiting ships. On New Terra, humanity's most successful colony, Mayor Kenji Tanaka watched families stream toward the spaceport. Children carried their pets in travel cages. Parents loaded photo albums and family heirlooms onto hover carts. The elderly stood for a long time, saying goodbye to gardens they had spent decades cultivating under an alien sun. Are we really just giving up? Asked Dr. Eris Thorne, the colony's chief scientist. He gestured to the gleaming towers and green parks of the city they had carved from a wilderness 50 years ago. After everything we built here? Mayor Tanaka's gaze was fixed on the horizon. Anya's orders were clear. We leave quietly, and with dignity. But this is our home, too, Thorne insisted. It was our home, Tanaka corrected, his voice heavy. Now we make a new one. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. On dozens of worlds, human traders closed their shops, transferring their businesses to their alien partners with meticulous records. Human teachers said goodbye to their students, handing over complete lesson plans for the next cycle. Human doctors finished treating their last patients, carefully training alien replacements in their unique surgical techniques. The aliens watched with growing confusion. They had expected protests, legal challenges, maybe even violent resistance. Instead, the humans packed their belongings with the same unnerving efficiency they applied to everything else. They left behind detailed instruction manuals for the infrastructure they could not take. They paid all their outstanding debts, right down to the last credit. They honored every single one of their contracts, right up to the final departure date. Captain Maria Santos commanded one of the last ships to leave the Kepler mining system. As her vessel pulled away from the station where she had worked for 10 years, she sent a final message to the Tharaki manager taking over. "All the equipment is in perfect working order," she said, her voice crisp and professional. "The maintenance schedules are programmed into the main computer. The safety protocols are clearly marked in your language. You should have no problems." Manager Kthar watched the human ship disappear into the silent blackness of hyperspace. The massive mining operation continued around him, humming along perfectly. The automated systems were flawless. Everything was running smoothly. On the diplomatic station orbiting Proxima Centauri, Ambassador Anya Sharma made her final report to Earth. "All human personnel have been evacuated from Council space. All facilities have been transferred to local authorities. All agreements terminated according to legal requirements." President Martinez appeared on the screen from Earth. "Any sign of regret from the Council?" "None," Anya replied, her face a mask of stone. "They seem relieved we left so quietly. I think they expected us to cause trouble." "Maybe we should have," Martinez said with a bitter smile. Anya shook her head. "No, we leave with our dignity intact. Let history judge them." The final human ships gathered at the edge of known space. Thousands of vessels, a silent, ghost fleet in the void. Families said goodbye to a galaxy that had been their home for generations. Young people, born on distant worlds, wondered what lay beyond the galactic rim. Admiral Jenna Sharma, Anya's sister, commanded the lead ship. She opened a channel to the entire human fleet. "Citizens of humanity," she said, her voice reaching every ship in the convoy. "Today, we begin a new chapter. We leave behind a galaxy that could not accept our differences. We go forward to build something better." The ships turned. As one, they faced the endless, starless darkness beyond the galactic edge and began their journey into the unknown. Behind them, the civilized galaxy settled back into its comfortable, predictable peace. The Galactic Council held a celebration 3 days after the last human ship vanished. Representatives from all 847 species gathered to mark the beginning of what they called the Age of Proper Order. Chairman Vexlor gave a stirring speech about stability and predictability. The crowd cheered. "Finally," said Councillor Zether from the Meridian Union, "we can focus on serious matters without human interference." "Agreed," added Trade Commissioner Kale. "No more emotional outbursts in negotiations. No more dangerous, undocumented experiments," chimed in Science Director Quilmes. "Just proper, methodical research." The party lasted late into the station's night cycle. They toasted the return of order. They congratulated themselves on making the galaxy safe again. In the weeks that followed, life in Council space continued exactly as planned. Ships followed their scheduled routes. Research proceeded according to established protocols. Diplomats conducted business with proper, tedious formality. Everything was predictable, orderly, efficient. The aliens were pleased with their decision. They had removed the disruptive element. Now they could build the perfect civilization they had always dreamed of. No more surprises. No more emotional complications. No more humans changing everything just when it seemed to be working properly. They were so focused on their achievement that they did not notice the small problems beginning to appear. Shipping delays that lasted a few hours longer than expected. Equipment failures that took slightly more time to repair. Research projects that moved a little more slowly. They were tiny changes, barely worth mentioning in official reports. The galaxy was still functioning. The removal of humanity had been a complete success. Or so they believed. 3 months after the law, SD human ship disappeared. Trade Commissioner Kale stared at his morning reports. The numbers didn't make sense. Piracy attacks along the outer spiral trade routes had increased by 312% in the past month. These were routes that had been completely safe for decades, when the humans managed them. Now, cargo ships were being hit almost daily. "How is this possible?" Kale asked his assistant, a young Zalani named Corin. "The security systems are exactly the same." Corin pulled up the technical reports. "The automated defense networks are functioning perfectly, sir. All sensors are working. All weapons platforms are operational. But Somehow the pirates are getting through. Kale studied the attack patterns. The pirates weren't using new technology. They were simply finding gaps in the security grid that had never existed before. It was as if the defense systems had developed blind spots overnight. Contact the human contractors who designed these systems, Kale ordered. Sir, all humans have been banned from Council space, Corin reminded him. We cannot contact them. Then find their technical manuals. There must be documentation. Corin looked uncomfortable. We have the official documentation, sir. But the human technicians made many small modifications over the years. They said the changes were too small to document formally. Kale felt his four stomachs clench. What kind of modifications? We're not sure, sir. The humans called them minor adjustments and field improvements. They said it helped the systems adapt to new threats. On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Silthera faced a different, but equally frustrating problem. The Altrian Research Institute had been the most productive science facility in Council space. Now, her team could barely complete basic experiments. The equipment is working perfectly, she told her research partner, Dr. Velkin. Our procedures are exactly the same, but our progress has slowed to almost nothing. Dr. Velkin checked their latest results. Perhaps we need to be more systematic. We are already following every protocol exactly, Dr. Silthera replied, her voice tight with frustration. Our methodology is flawless, but we are not making any new discoveries. She pulled up the Institute's research history. For 30 years, they had produced breakthrough discoveries almost monthly. New medicines, improved technologies, revolutionary theories. But almost all of those breakthroughs had come from projects that included human researchers. Look at this, she said, pointing at the data. Every single major discovery involved humans suggesting unexpected experiments or noticing patterns we all missed. Humans are not methodical, Dr. Velkin said dismissively. They just try random things and hope for the best. Maybe, Dr. Silthera said slowly. But somehow, their random attempts led to more discoveries than all of our careful planning. The problems were not limited to research and security. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, Foreman Kthar watched his operation fall apart. The humans had left detailed instruction manuals for all the equipment. Every procedure was documented, but something was going wrong. The primary excavator has broken down again, reported his assistant, Yellum. That is the fourth time this week. Kthar checked the maintenance schedule. The automated systems show everything is working perfectly. The machine should not be failing. The human supervisor. She used to check it every morning, Yellum said. She would make small adjustments to the settings. What kind of adjustments? Yellum looked through the old work logs. The records just say, routine calibration and minor optimization. Nothing specific. Kthar felt a surge of frustration. The humans had followed all the official procedures, but they had also done dozens of small, intuitive tasks they never bothered to document. They seemed to just know when something needed attention, even when the computer said everything was fine. Try to contact the human who used to work here, he ordered. Sir, Yellum reminded him, his voice flat. Even communication with them is now illegal. The same story played out across hundreds of worlds. Factories that had run smoothly for decades began experiencing unexpected breakdowns. Transportation systems developed mysterious delays. Power plants required constant repairs despite perfect maintenance records. In every case, the problem was the same. The automated systems worked as designed, but the humans had been making countless tiny adjustments that were never recorded. They had been solving problems before those problems became serious enough to trigger an official alert. Councillor Athera called an emergency meeting of the Economic Committee. These are just temporary adjustment problems, insisted Trade Director Morgoth. The systems will stabilize once we adapt. How long will that take? Asked Mining Commissioner Tolver. My operations are losing money every day. The humans did not have any special knowledge, Science Advisor Quilmes said firmly. They simply did not follow proper procedures. Once we establish correct protocols, everything will improve. But privately, some were beginning to worry. The small problems were getting bigger. Maintenance Chief Sector of Central Station had worked with humans for 20 years. When the station's environmental systems began malfunctioning, he knew exactly what the problem was. The humans didn't just follow maintenance schedules, he explained to the station commander. They listened to how the machines sounded. They felt for vibrations that weren't quite right. They noticed small changes the sensors couldn't detect. That is not scientific, the commander replied dismissively. Proper maintenance follows documented procedures. Yes, sir, Sector agreed. But the humans prevented problems before they became emergencies. Now we only know something is wrong when it fails completely. 3 weeks later, the station's main power generator exploded without warning. All sensors had shown normal operation right up until the failure. An investigation found that a human technician would have noticed the subtle signs and repaired it months ago. The careful order the aliens had worked so hard to achieve was developing cracks. But the council leadership refused to admit there was a serious problem. They insisted removing the chaotic human element had been the right decision. They did not yet understand that they had banished the very thing that kept their society from breaking apart. 1 year after the human exodus, General Thakmor of the Vorak Empire stood in his command center, watching his military fall apart. Red warning indicators flashed across half their territory. 3 different rebel groups had attacked their outposts in the past week. His forces had failed to stop any of them. How did they break through our defenses? He demanded. Colonel Vexter consulted his tactical reports. Our forces followed standard attack protocols exactly, sir. Every maneuver was executed perfectly, according to the manual. Then why did we lose? The colonel hesitated. The enemy used unexpected tactics, sir. They did not follow conventional military doctrine. General Thakmor slammed his clawed hand on the console. What he didn't want to admit was that Vorak military doctrine had only ever worked because human officers had been there to adapt it when the situation changed. The humans never followed the rules exactly. They modified tactics on the spot. They found creative solutions. Now, when the battle plan failed, Vorak commanders had no idea what to do next. They could execute the standard procedures perfectly, but they could not think of a new plan when the old one stopped working. The crisis deepened. Environmental disasters began striking terraformed worlds. The planet Kepler 438b had been a lush paradise. Now its ecosystems were collapsing. All our biological models predicted a stable ecosystem, Dr. Rontel, the scientist in charge, told her team. The computer simulations showed perfect balance. What she didn't understand was that human terraformers had never relied purely on computer models. They had used intuition, experience, and what they called gut feelings to make adjustments no algorithm could predict. They understood that living systems were too complex to be perfectly planned. Without them making those constant, tiny adjustments, even the most carefully designed worlds began to die. The first major pandemic in 2 centuries hit next. Dr. Morth, head of the Galactic Health Organization, watched infection rates climb. His teams followed every protocol for disease containment. But the pandemic kept spreading. Our standard antiviral drugs have no effect, reported his lead researcher. Have you tried experimental treatments? Dr. Morth asked. Sir, experimental treatments require extensive testing and approval processes. It would take years to develop new medicines using proper procedures. Dr. Morth knew human doctors would have already been trying unusual combinations of existing drugs, testing radical new approaches, somehow finding a solution that conventional medicine missed. But those practices had been considered too risky, too unscientific. Now, faced with a spreading pandemic, the aliens' careful, methodical approach was failing while people suffered. The problems cascaded. Agricultural systems failed. Transportation networks broke down. In the council chambers, the debates grew more desperate. We need to be more systematic, insisted Science Director Quilmes. The systems are not working. Trade Commissioner Kale shouted back. Then we need better systems. Quilmes replied stubbornly. A few members began to quietly suggest that maybe, just maybe, they had made a mistake. But these voices were quickly silenced. The problems were temporary. They would be solved. Chairman Vexlor maintained public confidence, but privately, he was beginning to see the terrifying truth. He pulled up historical records and made a disturbing discovery. Every single major crisis of the past century had been resolved through human intervention, not through their technology, but through their unique ability to find unexpected solutions. The Meridian Plague, stopped by human doctors trying experimental treatments that violated every medical protocol. The Outer Rim War ended when human diplomats convinced natural enemies to work together. The Great Economic Collapse, reversed by human economists who ignored traditional theories. In every case, the humans had succeeded by doing exactly what the Council had banned them for: being unpredictable, emotional, and innovative. Chairman Vexlor closed the files. Somewhere out there, beyond the galactic rim, humanity was building a new civilization. They had been gone for only 1 year, but already, their absence was destroying everything the Council had worked to preserve. The galaxy was learning a painful lesson about the difference between order and stagnation. 2 years after the Exodus, Chairwoman Zephyra of the Meridian Union led an unprecedented mission beyond the galactic rim. Her ship, the Harmony of Worlds, carried representatives from 50 different species. It carried the desperate hope of a dying civilization. The journey took 3 weeks. What they found when they arrived defied all their calculations. "Are these readings correct?" Zephyra asked her science officer, staring at the sensor display in disbelief. "I have checked them 5 times, Chairwoman," Dr. Silthera replied, her voice trembling. "Human civilization has expanded across 17 galaxy clusters. Their technology appears to be centuries ahead of our own, and they have made peaceful contact with over 40 previously unknown alien species." Through the view screen, they saw it. Massive space stations that dwarfed anything in Council space. Ships moved between them in patterns that seemed chaotic, but were brutally efficient. "How is this possible?" asked Trade Commissioner Kale. "They have only been gone for 2 years. Perhaps humans adapt faster than we thought," Dr. Siltheris said quietly. A fleet of sleek, black ships approached their vessel. A communication signal came through within minutes. "Council Ship Harmony of Worlds. This is Admiral President Anya Sharma of the Terran Frontier Alliance. You are welcome in human space. Please follow our escort ships to Sanctuary Station." Zephyra recognized the name. Anya Sharma, the ambassador who had accepted their banishment so calmly. She was now the leader of what appeared to be a vast human empire. Sanctuary Station was beyond anything they had imagined. A massive structure housing millions of beings from dozens of species. Markets bustled with trade between humans and aliens the Council had never even encountered. Admiral President Sharma met them in a conference room that overlooked the station's main hub. She looked older, but her eyes held a confidence that had not been there before. "Welcome to Sanctuary," she said warmly. "I assume you are not here for a social visit." Chairwoman Zephyra struggled to find the words. "How do you apologize for destroying a civilization? How do you ask for help from the people you wronged so badly? Our galaxy is dying," she said finally. "War, starvation, economic collapse. Everything is falling apart." Sharma nodded slowly. "We have been monitoring your communications. The situation appears serious. We need your help," Zephyra continued, the words tasting like ash. "We realize now, we made a terrible mistake. Humanity was not our problem. You were our solution." The Council representatives spent the next 3 days touring human space. They saw worlds where humans worked alongside silicon-based life forms from the Andromeda Galaxy. They saw research stations where human intuition was combined with the mathematical precision of species that thought in pure logic. "How did you do all this so quickly?" Dr. Silthera asked a human scientist. The scientist, Dr. Maria Santos, smiled. "We didn't have to spend our time following procedures that didn't work. We could experiment freely, try new approaches, and learn from our mistakes." "But surely you made many errors," Silthera said. "Of course we did," Santos agreed. "But we learned from them quickly and tried again. Fast failure and rapid adaptation work better than slow perfection that never comes." On the 3rd day, Admiral President Sharma called a formal meeting. "You came here to ask for our help," she said directly. "What exactly are you proposing?" Zephyr took a deep breath. "We want humans to return to Council space. We will rescind the banishment order. We will restore your full membership." "As subjects of the Galactic Council?" Sharma asked. "Yes, of course," Zephyr replied. Sharma was quiet for a long moment. Then she shook her head. "You still don't understand," she said gently. She stood and walked to the window overlooking the bustling station. "You said we were your chaos, but you never understood that you were our stagnation. You gave us order, and we gave you growth. You offered us stability, and we provided you with hope. It was a symbiosis." She turned back to face them. "For centuries, you kept us in line just enough to prevent us from becoming completely unpredictable. And we kept you moving forward just enough to prevent you from becoming completely static. Neither of us could survive alone for long. Then come back, Counselor Zethar pleaded. Help us rebuild. We will help, Sharma said. But not as your subjects. We will come back as your equals. As partners in something new. She laid out the proposal. No more Galactic Council making decisions for everyone. A new confederation of worlds, where different approaches to problems are seen as strengths, not weaknesses. Chaotic human intuition working alongside methodical alien logic. Innovation encouraged, not controlled. Diversity celebrated, not eliminated. In the end, desperation won over pride. We accept your terms, Chairwoman Zephyra announced. Sharma smiled. Then we start small. Joint colonies in the outer rim, where our people work together. Research stations where different ways of thinking can combine. Trade partnerships based on mutual benefit, not council regulations. The galaxy slowly began to heal. Human innovation combined with alien precision to solve problems that had seemed impossible. The wars ended, not through victory, but through creative compromises that satisfied everyone. Food production increased. Medical research accelerated. 5 years after the Exodus, the Galactic Council formally dissolved itself. It was replaced by the Confederation of Worlds. The new organization had no single ruling authority, no universal laws. Instead, it provided a framework for different species to work together while remaining true to their own natures. Director General Sharma stood in her office, looking out at a galaxy that was more diverse, more chaotic, and more alive than it had ever been before. The galaxy had learned its most important lesson. True civilization was not about creating perfect order, but about finding the right balance between order and chaos, between stability and change. The future was unpredictable again, and that made it full of possibilities.